Well, happy Friday, everybody,
Happy Friday.
and
Happy Friday.
welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts,
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
and today we have joining us all the way from the St. Croix River in Schaefer, Minnesota, Alison Wilder.
Ah, love the applause. Feels so good. Yeah.
Well, we're happy to see you because it's been a minute. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but it's Friday, so we're getting the party started. Thank you. I know it's been a week, and I am really excited to enjoy a little Bell's Porter from Michigan. Is what I'm
Oh,
going to enjoy on
Yum.
my Friday afternoon. I keep going back and forth between summery drinks and heavy winter beers because
I wondered
April in
why.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Because it
There,
was literally sleeting outside like 20
And now,
minutes
and now
ago.
it's
yeah.
all sunny. I don't know what's happening out there,
It's
but
yeah.
all I know is it's sunny right here at the Back Catalog Listening Party because all of you are joining us. Chris joining us from Savage, living the spring dream with a seasonal red lager.
Yes.
That's right.
Intended for winter.
Exactly. Connie from
Hey, Connie.
Richfield, Joe from South Minneapolis, and this opening tune always cheers me up.
Oh,
Starts the weekend, and I have to say, the theme song. For those of you who don't know, the theme song that we hear every week, kicking off the Back Catalog Listening Party, is an Anthony Ihrig original. So
Oh.
you can find it on his solo album, so you can always check that out. Matthew Winters joining us from Urbana, making a salad. All
Nice.
right, solid
Excellent.
choice. I like
Yes.
that. Happy hour
nice.
salad. Um, Lynn from join a Georgia beer in South Carolina. We
Excellent.
won't tell your Georgia peers about that. And then Wiley from Fairfax, Virginia. And Wiley says he saw me on Toilet Tunes today. And for those of you who don't know, Toilet Tunes is also a Friday YouTube show that Sarah Morris, an artist who's been a guest here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, hosts with different artists who stop by her bathroom because it has great acoustics. They play a song and chat a little bit. And
I
so
love it.
we chatted a little bit about today's show. So you can
Excellent.
check that out. And Wiley says it's margarita time. Well, that sounds
Nice.
good to me. Tony, what are you drinking on this Friday afternoon?
I was kind of anticipating it might be a little warmer, so I went with the Bauhaus Brew Labs Guavatron
Ah.
again. It's kind of a light.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like
Guava.
a pinkish hue. It's almost like a sour beer. It's really good. And
Nice.
I'm just it's a 75 and sunny here in my studio right now.
Sounds good. And Allison, are you enjoying
I
a beverage?
love it. Yeah, I've got some tea.
Nice. It seems appropriate on a day like today.
It's just chilly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just warming it up.
Well, we're going to warm things up for you today on the Back Catalog Listening Party. For those of you who are new to the show, this is the show where we invite different artists on to revisit one of their old records, and we listen in real time together, chat about the songs, and answer your questions. So feel free to throw in to the chat any questions, comments, or again, what you're drinking on this Friday afternoon. Alex says hi from chilly South
Ooh.
Minneapolis, drinking hot toddies. Yeah, that sounds about right.
That is a good choice.
Excellent.
Well, we are so excited for today's show. I personally am really excited because Alison Wilder, formerly known as Alison Rae to some of you Minnesota music fans, I can't remember. We were trying to figure out the last time we had seen each other, and we can't even
Yeah.
remember. So we know it's been too long.
Yeah, a long time.
So first of all, why don't we, and some people might be totally new to your music, so why don't you give a little kind of the 2-minute origin story of where you grew up and how you started making music.
Okay. So I was born, I'm from Shoreview, Minnesota, and grew up singing in the church. So Baptist church, hymns. I remember singing hymns at a young age. My mom said I was singing before I talked. But lots of music in the church, and that's where I fell in love with music, with melodies, and was signed to a label in Memphis when I was 18.
Mm,
We
wow.
talked about that back then, I think, didn't we, Ellen? A little bit.
Probably, but
Yeah.
why don't, for folks who aren't familiar with that, what kind of music were you doing at the time? Was that Christian music?
It
or
was Christian music.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was in, let's see, 1997 is when I signed that record deal, the day of my prom.
Oh wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So weird. So
Yeah.
weird.
So
So yeah, went off to Memphis, recorded at Arden Studios, which is a great studio. Jody Stevens from Big Star runs
Mm.
that studio, and Dylan's recorded there, and all. I mean, there's been so many different people, but the guy that produced our record did Gin Blossom, so that dates me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, but that's
You
big
know,
time. That's a
the
big
90s,
time
man.
studio.
The
Yeah.
90s.
And at that time, this was a really big deal. I mean, CDs were
Yeah.
still popular and big record deals were happening. So how did that come about? Can I ask?
I was in a band competition
Really?
at this Christian club
Oh, wow.
called the New Union,
Mhm.
which was in Minneapolis, and they sent an AR guy, and they scouted. They wanted me to ditch the band. They wanted to bring in a new band, and I was like, that's not happening. No, it's me and the whole band are nothing at all.
Nice.
But yeah, it was great. We had a band house down there. We did 2 records. I remember meeting ZZ Top in the break room.
Wow.
And not knowing who they were, because I was I was raised on like Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith, you know what I mean? So it was really interesting.
Like, who are these guys with the giant beards?
I was just like, yeah, they were.
That was my
drinking
very
coffee
first
and,
concert, by the way.
It was?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, really?
Yeah. But you keep going.
They were like, smoking cigarettes, and John Hampton, the producer, was like, and they're like, drinking coffee, and I was like, I just treated them like they were anybody else. I didn't get starstruck or anything because I didn't know who they were. And I think they were just like, what's this girl's deal? But so that began, my professional music career. And then the band disbanded in 2000, I think right around 2000. And then I ended up doing some music for Target stores with Tim Franzik, who then co-produced, he produced Birds, the record. And Tim hired me to do these lullaby CDs. Do you remember when Target had those
Lifescapes and all of those? Yeah.
So you would push the button. I think they're long gone. Yeah. They've got to be. Remember, they were like by the cards, and you would just like push the button and
hear the
relaxing song. Yoga or like whatever, right?
I actually showed up on a farmyard one. I got hired to play banjo on one of the Target farmyard CDs.
Yeah, the banjo players
banjo
players don't end up on the yoga ones.
I did.
Who produced it?
I'll have to check. I was just a hired gun. I came in, knocked it out, and then I got a CD eventually, and it was totally from that same section of the store.
So that was me. Yeah, I was hired in to do. In fact, one of the songs is on the saddest UNICEF commercial ever.
Oh no!
I'm singing "Sweet Chariot," and it's just like you're just like, oh my god, it's so sad. But yeah, so I did those with Tim, and then he went on to produce my first solo record, where I was writing all the songs, just me, not a bunch of people weighing in on everything that I did. And so that's kind of how I started out.
And that's the album we're going to be revisiting today.
Yep.
Nice.
Awesome.
So this is the first one after all that. That's great.
Yep.
Wonderful.
So, yeah. Do you want me to keep going to today, or?
Well, I think we're going to dive a little more into what you've been up to recently in a little bit, but we want to definitely get to some music. And before we do, I just want to honor Matt's comment from Urbana. Said, "I heart the Gin Blossoms. My first rock concert, Sacred Heart U Gymnasium in 9th grade. That would be in my home state of Connecticut." So yes. So you're amongst your peers here, Alison.
I love it. And so I'm okay if it dates me, man. It's like, yeah.
Well, I think we just discovered we're the same age, Alison. So I feel like we're in good company. Well, we're so excited to dive into this record. Again, Birds is the name of the album, and this is the title track, the first track on the record. Is there anything you want to say about this song before we take a listen together?
Let's roll it, and
okay.
We can see how it comes up.
Excellent. Let's give it a listen. This is Alison Wilder with Birds here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Everything upside down. And honey, do you know what you do whenever you are near to me? All of the birds are flying around, and now my feet are off of the ground. I can't keep from singing now that you're here with me. What would you say if I told you today that I've been loving you all this time, and everything's new since I found you, and all the roses are in bloom, and all of the birds are flying around, and now my feet are off of the ground, and I can't keep from singing. All of the birds are flying around, and now my feet are off of the ground. I can't keep from singing now that you're here with me. All of the birds are flying around, and now my feet are off of the ground. I can't keep from singing now that you're here with me.
I love a long fade. I
Especially
don't.
when there's a pedal steel involved.
I know. I just
gonna
couldn't bring
say.
myself to talk over that great pedal steel. So tell us who's playing on that, Allison.
It's Joe Savage.
Oh, one of the best.
Yeah.
He
yeah.
is just like, he is seriously so near and dear. That man, I love him so much. So
Yeah.
I was, really fortunate to have some incredible players on this record. We tracked it live.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. I just want to remind folks that what we just heard was Birds by Alison Rae from her album of the same name. It came out in 2007, her first truly solo outing of her original material. And Wiley says, oh man, felt chills, beautiful lyrics. And I'd
sweet.
agree. I mean, if this is your first outing, I mean, that's some pretty outstanding songwriting happening on that tune. So
Agreed.
Thank
I
you.
I'd love to know a little bit about this album in general, since you said it was your first like truly kind of soul album where you
Yeah.
got to write the songs you wanted to write. Had you been writing this whole time and this was just the first opportunity that you could like truly express yourself the way you wanted, or was this or was this really your first songs?
Well, I wrote when I was little. I was writing songs, and then in the band I did some songwriting as well, but I was really not confident in it. I just felt like I didn't quite know what my role was, or what quite what to write about. And so this was the first time that I really felt like the freedom to just like do whatever I wanted to do. I was still pretty tentative though, because it was a change of genre. Like I didn't have those same rules or boundaries of like worship music, right? Like I knew how to write a worship song or to sing to write Christian music, like but this was different. So this was a fun one for me to just like be able to write what I wanted to write about. And so
That brings up a question. Then I like to ask artists who do have like these creative constraints, in certain circumstances and not others. Did you have any kind of boundaries around what you were putting on this record? Did you have any themes, or was there anything that was guiding this, or was this just kind of what was coming out from you creatively at the time?
It was what was coming out, and I think I was trying to figure out what I was outside of Christian music. So there was a lot of alt country happening at that time. Like I think Failure came out right around then.
Kathleen Edwards, yeah.
Oh my God, like love her. And then when I moved to Nashville after the band broke up, I became friends with some people down there through a songwriting thing that was happening at 12th and Porter. It was called the 12 at 12th, and it was 12 artists. It started at 10 p.m. and it went until the wee hours. And Daniel Tashian hosted it, who went on to produce and win a Grammy for Casey Musgraves. Mm-hmm. And then Mindy Smith became a friend of mine. And Mindy's record, I ended up opening for Mindy at the Fine Line when she came through town. But she kind of got on the map because of her song Jolene, when she covered Jolene. Mm-hmm. But that record came out around that same time, and I think I was just really vibing with the alt country, and I love Emmylou Harris. Like I would put pedal steel all over everything if I could.
Amen.
I would like just put it everywhere, and I kind of did.
That's great.
Well, if you have someone like Joe Savage, why wouldn't you? I mean,
right?
It was a total no-brainer. So
excellent.
Well, it sounded great.
Yeah. And so, tell us a little bit about, you alluded to the great band, and obviously if you tracked this live, and man, that does not, I mean, it doesn't sound live in that it's so perfect.
Yeah. I wouldn't have guessed actually. It's really tight.
Yeah. So tell us who else is playing on this record, because I know it's a star-studded cast.
Yeah, I was super fortunate. And I have to say Tim Franzik is the one that orchestrated that. He's a connector, you know what I mean? And he really allowed me to have a great experience in the studio. So we did it at Creation Studio. Rob Genetic engineered.
Nice.
Tim Franzik produced. Noah Levy on drums. John Munson played bass. Love him. We had so much fun. I mean, it was quick. We tracked mainly everything, and it was like 2 takes and we're done. So some of my vocals, I'm always like a little more picky with that, because I had only ever done like full-on tracking at Ardent. But also there was something about recording live that really captured the emotion of it. Like we were feeding off of each other. So it was me, Noah, John Munson, Joe Savage, Peter Ostrushko did some overdubs. We'll hear him on That's When I Miss You. Wow. And we did that at Tim Franzik's sister's house. And Peter was on this couch, kind of laid back, playing, and you can hear the couch kind of creaking in spots, and it was just so like beautiful to work with him. So I might be forgetting a couple of the people that did overdubs. You mentioned, I think, Dan Chenard.
Yeah, great.
That's world-class musicians there. Holy moly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it was so fun. And we played some really fun live shows. It was just like I felt like I was sort of floating on this, like, just they just buoyed me in this. They're incredible. So I was super grateful for that time, that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, if you just tuned into the back catalog listening party, we were talking with Alison Wilder. And if the voice and the face look familiar, but you're like, Alison Wilder, how do I know that face and voice? Well, she used to record under the name Alison Rae, but is now recording under the name Alison Wilder. And if you're looking for her music, it might be under Alison Rae, but definitely if you go to Alison Wilder Bandcamp page, you can find all of her music, including the new stuff, which we're going to talk a little bit about coming up. But if you like what you're hearing, throw your comments, questions in the comments. We'll get to as many of them as we can as we feature some songs from this sort of, I guess, debut record, right? Under Alison Rae.
Yeah, for sure.
And the next track that you picked to feature on today's show is Listen Boy. Is there anything you want to say before we take a listen to Listen Boy?
Sure. Yeah. So this was a fun one. I think starting out trying to write songs, I was like, can I even do this? And kind of, no, I don't know if I can. And I was living in a house in Minneapolis with some girlfriends on Elliott Street. And I went up into the attic and like locked myself in there and just was like, I'm going to write this song. I think we had a show at the Turf Club coming up. And I didn't want to do all covers. And Listen Boy, I think was the first one to come out from this record. And it's about my ex-husband. We were dating at the time, and I smoked cigarettes, and which was so taboo for
former Christian singer. Yeah.
Living in Nashville and hanging out in the bars, and the songwriter, I started, having a beer and having a smoke or whatever. That's what we did. There was back then, so you'll hear a line in there about, I've got no time for talking about heartache and cigarettes. I've got a plane to catch home. And it's about that time in my life because he hated it and was like super, whatever, controlling about, he was like, you can't do that or whatever. I'm like, oh, watch me.
Listen, boy.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yes.
Well, let's give it a listen.
Yeah.
This is Alison Wilder, Listen Boy, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Listen, boy, I've got no time for talking about heartache and cigarettes. I've got a plane to catch home. If you want me, I'll be around. Pick up the phone and call. I'll be the one you adore. I love you, that much I know is true. Listen, boy, what do you say we just get in the car and drive up to the shore and we'll spend the day. Sing to the radio, everything's okay now that you're here with me. And I love you, that much I know is true. for talking about heartache and cigarettes. I've got a plane to catch home.
The most beautiful kind of kiss-off song I think I've ever heard. Listen, Boy. That was Alison, recorded under the name Alison Rae, but Alison Wilder is joining us. She's recording music under that name now. Becky Schlegel, who knows about dreamy lyrics and beautiful voices, chimed in to say how much she enjoyed that. And then Chris had a question for you. Alison, do your songs start in a notebook? Lyrics, story first, or...
I usually, it's really, for me, when I write a song that sticks, it's kind of a download situation. It's like I start playing and I start singing, and then I get melodies that bring up words. And that's how this one came pretty quick all at once, and sometimes they don't, and then I will kind of go back to some scratchings in my notebooks or voice recordings and try to sort through it, but it's harder for me that way. So there's always a balance between really like working a song and then letting them happen. But for me, my process is melody driven.
Yeah. Well, it's and am I right in thinking that you play both guitar and piano?
I do.
So do you have a preferred instrument to write on, or do both happen equally for songwriting?
So for this record, it was all guitar. I didn't play piano at all on it, but for my new record, Wilder, it's both. Excellent. So I've been writing on piano, and then we're skipping an album in between too, because I did an EP with my cousin Peter Miller from We Are the Willows. I Wrote You a Letter, and that I wrote on electric too.
Interesting.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, before we get too far away from the song we just heard, I was just the accordion in that was so beautiful. Was that Dan Chenard playing that, or?
It's I think it was Dan Newton, wasn't it?
Ooh.
Or Dan
Newton.
Gosh,
you
guys.
is the
could have been either of them.
One of the premier accordionists.
I think it was Dan Newton. You guys, I can't believe.
Oh, you know what?
On that. It's been
You know what?
so
I found
long.
it. I found my album copy. It
Excellent.
says Dan Chenard played accordion on that.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
But he plays piano too. So he's another versatile Dan.
You want to hold that up while you got it there, Ellen? I just
Mm-hmm.
want to say, folks, this sounds really, really good. I mean, this is a really excellent recording, and as much as it sounds good through YouTube, it sounds even better if you were to pick up the actual version, like either the high res. Do you have any physical versions of this one left, Allison?
I do.
All right.
Like,
and I
what
reckon,
do you do with all those?
Well,
we don't listen to CDs.
I think you're going to ship them to all the people who are going to order them after.
yeah,
hearing this
exactly. I mean, you want it on the CD, you get the liner notes, you see who is on it, but it's totally high res. No one, it's not going to disappear when the pricing models change. You're going to have it. We have some regulars here on the back catalog that make sure to purchase most of the physical copies, and I think if you don't do that, at least get the high resolution version.
Yes, and you can do that at Bandcamp. And when you go to the Alison Wilder Bandcamp page, you'll find all of Alison's recordings, even the ones done under her former performing name, Alison Rae, and the project she just mentioned with Peter Miller of We Are the Willows. So you can check out her whole discography there. You can also throw in a little extra because you can, Bandcamp allows you to throw in that little extra tip if you really like what you hear. And this is probably a good opportunity to talk about what you're working on right now, because one of the reasons it's been so long since we've gotten a chance to chat is, you've been busy with other life things and not doing quite as much music lately, but that is changing, I know. So tell us about your project you are working on right now.
Yeah, so it's been a long time, as we've established. But yeah, I just, I wasn't singing. I wasn't writing at all. For me, it wasn't even just like being busy, with my son, who's now 14, and all of those life changes. But it was really a block. Like it was, honestly, like I kind of delve into some mental health stuff on this record that I'm doing, like some pretty hard stuff, like that I'm have never written about before. Trauma and all of those things. And I started doing something called brain spotting, which is a trauma therapy, kind of like EMDR. And I think it like all of a sudden I was able to start writing again. So yeah, I'm working on the record and I'm super excited about it. I ended up finding a studio that kind of blew my mind right across the river from me. It's literally like 4 miles. I just drive down into Taylor's Falls. I cross the St. Croix and I'm at this place called Zoo School, which is a studio. Jace, do you know Zoo School?
I am familiar with, I've not been there, but I know people who've recorded there. Yeah.
So Jason and I are the same age, and he went to this charter school at the Minnesota Zoo in the 90s. It was like an environmental charter school or something, and all the kids called it Zoo School. And it's hilarious.
That's great.
I just never thought I would find a place like this so close to home, and for me to having that sense of like, I can envision this now. I have someone who's going to lead me through this, and who my songs have a home. I just started writing like crazy. Like I'm going to have more than enough for a couple of records at some point here. So it was really incredible to meet Jason, and exciting too to track. Like we're going to do some of them more with a live vibe, and some that are more tracked, but I haven't tracked a record really in this way since I recorded in Memphis.
Wow. That's great.
You know, so it's a fun experience. It's so different. You know, you really get to like climb into the songs, and it's been pretty incredible and really fun.
That's wonderful. And you can support this new album. You can pre-order it. You have an Indiegogo campaign going. I think there's only a couple days left, right? So
yeah.
So you can definitely support the album and get your copy early. That way you can also just consider it as like a tip jar today. You can just throw some money towards the making of that record. And I know that at least one single is out now from that upcoming record, right? The 90s, which feels appropriate given our conversation earlier about the gin blossoms and and all this stuff. So if you like Alison and me are 90s kids, and you might want to check out that song because I really enjoyed that quite a bit. A little more rockin' and very cool.
And there's 2 out. So the way I'm doing it is like the side A is going to be more produced and sort of like all out, no apologies, whatever it wants to be, pop rock or a little electronic or whatever. Side B is the stripped down heartbreakers, just like the really ambient, more live takes, more rough around the edges a little bit. So they come out in 2s. So
can I say how much I love the fact that you have an A and a B?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know, right?
You're talking to true album record geeks. That's what's inspired the show, essentially.
Yeah. No, go on. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's side A. So they're literal like flip flops of each other. And so the 90s came out with Wilder, and that's the 90s starts the record and Wilder ends it. And they're polar opposites. So
nice.
It was fun. Wilder I did live, and that's a piano song.
Excellent.
Am I right to see that they were both actually available on Bandcamp already, or at least to listen to?
They are. You're on it.
All right. Yeah, I was poking around before the show, and you can go to AlisonWilder.bandcamp.com and get a sneak preview of this new record. It sounds great.
Yes, and again, those links are also in the comments, so you can check them out there. And we had a question from Joni, which actually feels apropos after you talking about sort of this new album, letting the songs be whatever style they want to be, whether it's pop, rock, or electronic. She wanted to know if you got any pushback when you're making this record we're revisiting today, which came out in 2007, your first kind of solo album away from sort of the Christian music you had been making. Did you have any pushback for family or fans or fellow Christian artist colleagues when you branched out into new kinds of music?
You know, not really. I can't say anything like major happened, but I played it pretty safe. Like, you know, I'm not writing about I mean, except for the cigarette line, I guess. Which actually, I was really nervous to release that song because I was just like, oh, great. Oh, here we go. Like, you know, everyone's going to know. But now I'm past that, and I feel like it's going to be interesting. Like, this one's pretty, I get pretty gritty with it. I'm not shying away from writing about some really hard stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, bring it on. I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? Like, the older I get, like, it's, you know, I was 28 when I recorded Birds, and I'm 44 now, you know, so it's like, there's something really beautiful about getting older and just being like, you know what, this is who I am, and life's too short. I'm going to write what I want to write.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like, yeah.
Well, if you have any comments or questions for Alison as we go through today's show, feel free to throw them in the comments. If you just tuned into the Back Catalog Listening Party, we are talking with Minnesota artist Alison Wilder about an album she put out in 2007, her first solo album. She recorded under the name Alison Rae, called Birds. And the next track that you picked to feature on today's show is That's When I Miss You. Is there anything you want to say about this before we take a listen?
This was a sweet one. This is the one Peter plays on. So listen for the couch creaks.
Peter Ostruszko. Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. This was for my grandpa. I was living at their home, helping take care of them at their home on Tanglewood and Shoreview, and spent a lot of my childhood there watching Grandpa in the garden. They had chickens. We used to play Little House on the Prairie, and I'd be Laura Ingalls Wilder, which is actually one of the reasons I changed. My middle name is still Rae, but my stage name to Wilder. And so watching Grandpa out the window and thinking about when he's not going to be there anymore. And it was springtime, and he would always cut me like these huge bouquets of lilacs, like more than my arms could hold, you know, just like he would get out his clippers and carefully go around and cut me every color. And so there's a line about the lilacs in bloom, and this one, it was about Alvin, my grandfather Alvin Rae. Yeah.
This is Alison Wilder. That's When I Miss You, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
When the light is dim in the afternoon and the day is fading fast, and I know that spring is coming soon, and the winter snow won't last, that's when I miss you. That's when angels cry. That's when I miss you. Whenever you say goodbye. When that lilac tree is full of blooms in the month of May, and the robins all will sing a song in the light of day, that's when I miss you. That's when angels cry. That's when I whenever you say goodbye. That's when I miss you. That's when angels cry. That's when I miss you. Whenever you say goodbye. That's when I miss you. That's when angels cry. That's when I miss you. Whenever you say goodbye. So never say goodbye.
Alison
Oh,
Wilder with That's When I Miss You from her 2007 album Birds, which we are revisiting today with Alison on the back catalog listening party. Jocelyn says, hearing Peter Ostroushko's mandolin makes me really miss him. And Joni says same. And yeah. And Chris says, beautiful, need a dabber. It's true. What a beautiful tune. And I did hear the couch creaking as you mentioning that the late great Peter Ostroushko playing mandolin. And I think you're muted, Allison. That you mentioned that Peter Ostroushko was sitting on a couch and that you could hear the creaking. And I did hear that in the track. And it felt kind of appropriate given what you said about the content being a very home song about home and family. It felt like that warm couch vibes, you know.
And the recording itself too has this warmth to it. I just want to remark on like how superbly captured all these instruments are. And again, if you're not listening on headphones, you really should, or get some good speakers, because the stereo field is really wide, and there's just a ton of space for your voice, like down the middle. Everything else is kind of over here on the periphery, and it really adds to the experience. It adds to the lyrics. It adds to the vibe of the whole song.
Yeah, that was one thing Tim really wanted, and he's so good at creating this space for my voice, and we kind of learned each other working together on the lullabies, and I worried it would be a snoozer, you know, like it wouldn't be. And there are some more upbeat songs on here, but on that record, but there's definitely something about the giving that space and letting it sort of breathe, you know, and also just doing those overdubs like at his sister's house. There was, you know, there's a song on here too, December, that's also on my Christmas EP, and I played the piano at that house, and it was really slightly out of tune, and I just love how like real everything, you know, it's sort of like an old quilt or something.
Yeah.
The humanity of it all, you know.
Yeah.
And you get little imperfections and couch creaking and slightly out of tune. I love it.
And Joni says, I can also picture a room full of people gently waltzing, which it does have that feel to it. That again, that old-fashioned feeling of family in the best possible way. And you know, I love that you mentioned that that, you know, there's sort of space for your voice. One of the things that I find so amazing that this was your kind of debut solo record is that there's kind of a confidence in not trying to overdo everything. I think there's a temptation a lot of times for artists, especially if you've done studio work and then you're like, this is my chance to really be me. And that you're almost like you attack it with everything you've got. And I love just that there's an ease and a confidence maybe you didn't feel it at the time, but I hear it in a way that's pretty amazing.
There was definitely, I think, that sort of pressure of like, who am I, you know? And I've always just really sang from my heart. I don't try to put on some, different style. Like certain people will sometimes try to sing in different, that kind of indie girl voice or whatever, where you're like, do you really sing like that? I don't know. And some of it's amazing, but I just come at it, pretty straight ahead. And one of the kindest things that was said about this record was from Jim Walsh. And Jim, I don't know if you're on here. I think I saw he was maybe going to be on, but Jim said something about my voice having all the power and the hype of a falling snowflake or something. That was his line. Maybe you're on here, Jim. You should chime in if you are and say what it was that hit you about it. But I appreciated that, because you wonder, is it, you just, when you're starting out and having a debut record and coming after leaving the band, is it going to hit, is it going to be enough? And so I'm glad we trusted our intuition.
Yeah, for sure. And
on this one.
And again, I'd echo what Tony said. You definitely want to get this album, get either a physical copy or the high res files at Bandcamp, because it just sounds amazing. And I remember the first time I heard Alison perform live was actually, you mentioned Jim Walsh. It was at one of his Mad Ripple Hootenannies.
The Hootenannies. Yeah.
In the basement. I think we might have even been on a round together. And
I think we were.
When I was just starting, when I was had like only a few originals probably at the time. And but I remember hearing you and I was just like, oh, she's so good. And I like just totally fell in love with your voice like immediately. And
thank you.
So it's so wonderful to get to revisit this record, because it was right around this time that I probably met you.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. We have time for just one more song, I think. But before we do that, I want to mention that this show is only possible because of our wonderful Patreon supporters. These are the folks who, even after we started the show during the pandemic, because Tony and I missed our artists and music loving friends.
Yeah.
And it was a coping mechanism. And then, we didn't know how long we'd do it. And then, 3 years later, we're still doing it because of these folks believe in the show and have supported it and have enabled it to move forward into this new phase, which will soon be launched as a podcast. So thanks to these folks: Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead, Pick and Paro, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Many Tracks, Nikki, Joni, David, Sarah C., and maybe you if you want to join the Patreon party. And we will be having a special after party next week following the show. We do private Zoom parties with our guests. We do other special things, and there might be a pint glass coming down the way, some special merch headed to some of our special founding patrons. So if you want to get on board, you can do that at patreon.com/back catalog listening party. And we'll also put that link in the comments as well, so you can support the show. But we have one more song to get to, and this tune is Love Gone Wrong. Is there anything you want to say about this, Alison, before you take a listen?
I don't think so. I think it kind of speaks for itself. I guess I will say, it was kind of one of those alt country influences that was hanging around at that time for me. So.
All right. Well, let the song speak for itself. This is Love Gone Wrong from Alison Wilder here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
By this time tomorrow, you'll be long gone, crossing the next state line, and I'll be moving on. But I'll be alright now. Don't you worry about me. Seems like the bird with the broken wing always sings. Just keep walking down the road, breaking into flower, and you'll be walking down the road. If you're gonna go, then just go. And I'll sing another song about love gone wrong. Just keep walking down that road. If you're gonna go, then just go. And I'll sing another song about love gone wrong. Love gone wrong. By this time tomorrow, you'll be long gone, crossing the next state line, and I'll be moving on.
All right. Love Gone Wrong by Alison Wilder from her 2007 album Birds, recorded under the name Alison Rae. You can find all this album and all of her music at Bandcamp. And you can pick up this record, her debut record. You can pick up some of those new singles that are going to be on her forthcoming record and everything in between at Bandcamp. And you can throw in a little extra as a tip, because man, this music is sounding good, and I'm so excited to hear what's next for you, Alison.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you so
Sounds
much
really
for your
good.
support over all these years.
Mhm.
What you do is incredible. Thank you.
And if you want to
thank you,
follow,
Anthony.
oh, you bet, Alison. This is my pleasure. This is my first experience with this record, and it's gorgeous. And I'm so excited we had this opportunity to listen together today. And I just wanted to point out to people that are interested in following your journey that she's very active at Instagram.com. And if you go to Instagram.com/Alison Wilder Music, you can follow along during while she posts reels and stories and pictures and all the rest. And I'm sure you'll be the first to know about the new project. And once again, we have a link in the comments to her Indiegogo campaign. If you were feeling like this episode brought you joy, you should show your support to Alison by going to her Indiegogo campaign. Throw a little something towards her next project, which is sure to be amazing, and hopefully back catalog of episode of the future.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope so,
Support the
yeah.
future back catalog. And Joni says, thank you all three for a fun Friday show. Good luck on the upcoming album. And yes, again, you can
Thank you,
support that at
Joni.
Indiegogo. Connie says, thanks for another great show. And Lynn, commenting on that last tune we heard, again, Love Gone Wrong. Lynn says, gorgeous flow to the song. And I'd agree. What some beautiful movement, which seems appropriate given that it's essentially a breakup song about moving on.
Literal movement.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Was that Tim Franzik doing the harmony vocals on that
Yeah,
in the previous
yeah.
track? Yeah, it
Mhm.
sounded really beautiful.
Yeah.
Really good. This has been such a treat to revisit these songs with you.
Went
Chris,
by really fast.
really fast. I don't
It
know
did.
what happened.
What?
I
It
don't
really
know.
did. I know.
And Chris says, great time. Thank you all. And thank you all for joining us. This show only works because artists like Alison say, yes, I'll come on I'll stay on my computer, even though I'm sick of my computer. I'll go on my computer and we'll torture you by making you listen to one of your old records. And artists like
I
Alison
haven't
say
heard it
yes.
in forever.
Exactly. And they say yes. And then all of you out there listening and chiming in on the comments, you join in the conversation. And that's what it's all about. It's about us enjoying music, discovering new music, rediscovering music, and getting to know new artists that might be new to you, or learning about new aspects to their music. So, and thanks to Steve, who just says, thank you, beautiful songs, Alison.
Thanks, Steve, another
Thank you,
Patreon
Steve.
supporter.
Exactly. And so thank you so much to all of you for joining us. And if you liked the episode, like it on YouTube. Direct more bots to Alison Wilder. And if you like what you hear and you want to be a part of this show on a more regular basis, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then you'll get first alert of what's happening. Well, I shouldn't say first alert. The people who get the real first alert is our Patreon supporters, who we mentioned earlier. Those folks get weekly updates and get to know who's going to be on the show and learn more about the artists and all kinds of good stuff, and sometimes get involved in private Zoom parties and whatnot. So if you want to learn more about that, again, you can go to our Patreon. And also, I should mention that this show, along with all of our past episodes, are archived at backcataloglisteningparty.com. In addition to the video and the audio of the show, we list the tracks. There's links to the artists' websites and projects and tangential projects. So you can really peruse all kinds of great stuff after 157 episodes.
Yeah, we're at 158. I agree with
Guys,
Alex. Went way too fast.
I went back and listened to a few of them. They're so great. So great. I love it. Yeah.
So wonderful. And actually, we mentioned Peter Ostroushko, and actually we did there's a really moving tribute to Peter Ostroushko that was done about Heart of the Heartland with artists who were involved in that project after Peter passed. So I highly recommend that one in particular.
It's a special episode for sure.
Cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, this is what it's all about, is coming together, as a community. And we really, I just want to reiterate what Ellen just said. We couldn't do it without all you folks out there, so thank you so much. And Alison Wilder, thank you again for being a part of this and sharing what you do and doing what you do. That's why we all gather each week, and we really appreciate it. And once again, if you want to show Alison how much you appreciate her, you can head over to AlisonWilder.bandcamp.com, or you can head to her Indiegogo campaign that we have in the comments, and show her your support. But mostly we just appreciate you all being here and being with us today.
Yes, indeed. Well, this is the perfect way to kick off the weekend. I hope you all have a great weekend, no matter what the weird weather holds for us here in Minnesota or wherever you are tuned in from.
It's always 75 and sunny on the back catalog.
Every Friday at 4 p.m. Central. You know it's going to be a good time. So thank you all for making that manifest today, and have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Cheers.
All right. Cheers. We'll see you next week on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Cheers.